struggle of life. In a quiet little village nestled between green hills and the lazy river Krishna, there lived a potter named Ramu. His house was small, half mud, half dreams, and behind it sat his world. A broken wheel, a cracked kiln, and a shed full of half-finished pots waiting for the sun to harden them. Ramu was not born lucky. His father had been a potter too, and the craft had passed through generations, like the river that never stopped flowing. But times had changed. Plastic had crept into the markets. Shiny steel and glass had replaced the humble clay pots. What once was a proud craft had now become a struggle to survive. Every morning, before the first rooster crowed, Ramu would rise. He'd wash his face with cold water from the well, tie his old turban, and sit before his wheel. As the wheel began to spin, his hands would dance with the clay. The wet earth obeyed his touch, taking shape, breathing life. It was his language, his meditation, his prayer. But prayers don't always fill stomachs. Ramu's wife, Meera, was gentle and patient. She sold vegetables in the market to help out. Their little boy, Gopal, was just 10, curious, clever, and full of questions. "Baba," he once asked, "why don't people buy your pots anymore?" Ramu smiled sadly. "Because the world has forgotten the beauty of what's made by hand." The week before Diwali was always the busiest. Ramu pinned his hopes on it every year. People would buy diyas, small clay lamps to light their homes. For a few days, his hands would not stop working, his wheel would not stop turning. He worked late into the nights, shaping hundreds of diyas, each one perfect, each one carrying a flicker of his faith. But that year, the rains came early and hard. The sun disappeared behind grey clouds, and the fields turned to mud. Ramu watched helplessly as his freshly made diyawas, still drying in the yard, melted back into wet clay. Days of work washed away in a single night. He sat silently in the rain, holding a half-broken lamp in his hand. Meera came running with an umbrella. "Come inside, Ramu," she pleaded. But Ramu only said, "What will I sell now? How will we eat?" The next morning, the village bazaar buzzed with people. Ramu carried his few remaining pots in a basket, walking barefoot through puddles. His eyes searched for buyers, but most people passed by, heading to the big shop that now sold plastic diyas with blinking lights. One woman stopped. She picked up a pot, examined it, and frowned. "These are too expensive," she said. Ramu smiled politely. "Madam, they're made by hand, from the earth itself. They will last you years." She shook her head and walked away. By evening, he had sold only 2 diyas for just enough money to buy a handful of rice. When he returned home, Meera served him rice gruel in a small bowl. "Eat, Ramu," she said softly. "Tomorrow will be better." But Ramu had no words left. He only looked at his hands, hands that could shape earth, but not destiny. Days passed. The rain stopped. The festival lights came and went. The village glowed, but Ramu's house stayed dark. Gopal, sensing his father's sadness, stopped asking questions. Instead, he began helping collecting clay from the riverbank, drying it carefully, watching his father work with quiet admiration. Then, one morning, a jeep stopped near Ramu's shed. A young woman stepped out. She wore spectacles and carried a clipboard. "Are you Ramu, the potter?" she asked. Ramu nodded, cautious. "I'm from the Handicrafts Cooperative. We're helping local artisans sell their work online. Would you be interested?" Ramu didn't fully understand what online meant, but he saw a spark of possibility in her eyes. He nodded. Over the next few weeks, the cooperative photographed his pots and diyas, listing them on a new website. Orders began trickling in, slow at first, then faster. People from cities he had never heard of were buying his creations, admiring the handmade touch that no machine could copy. When the article was published, orders flooded in. His name, once forgotten, was now known beyond the hills. He employed 2 young villagers to help him, teaching them not just pottery, but patience and pride. Years passed. The river still flowed, the seasons still changed, but Ramu's life no longer revolved around struggle alone. It was a story of resilience, the power to fall, to break, and to rise again. On a quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Ramu sat beside his wheel, watching Gopal shape a pot with steady hands. "Perfect," he said softly. "Just remember, my son, life is like this clay. It resists, it cracks, but if you stay patient, it will take the shape you desire." Gopal looked up and smiled. "Like you did, Baba?" Ramu chuckled. "No, better than me. The wheel keeps turning after all." And under the fading light, as the clay spun and the wheel hummed, the humble potter's story became more than one man's struggle. It became a song of faith, of labor, and of life itself. Moral life's true strength lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we do. Hard work and hope may bend under pressure, but they never truly break.